I will never forget what my father told me when I announced my engagement. He took me to the side and said, "Zoe, are you sure about marrying this man, Peter? I know you're in love with him, but I don't think he's a good match for you." "Why are you saying this, Dad? He loves me and respects me. I don't care if he's not as well off as us." "I know that, Zoe. You know, I built my riches from nothing. I would never disrespect a person who does not belong to my economic class. But Peter is a very sketchy man. His mother is no different." "What do you mean, Dad? I don't understand." "Call it a father's instinct, Zoe. This man doesn't love you. Yes, he showers you with affection, but always talks about how rich you are. I heard him flexing to his friends that he bagged a rich brat. Julia just laughed with him and agreed." "You must be mistaken, Dad. Peter would never say those things about me. Julia also loves me a lot. I'm sure she would scold Peter if he tried to joke like that." Sometimes I wish I had listened to my father. He did know what he was talking about. I was a stupid girl in love. My mother passed away 2 years before I got married. My dad was sick and wasn't long for this world. I was desperate to hold on to something that would give me the will to live. Peter and Julia became those people. My dad was a rich man. He made a series of good investments that made him very financially well off. I worked hard at my job and got a moderate salary as well. All in all, we were pretty comfortable in life. My husband Peter and his mom Julia weren't that well off. Yes, Peter did earn more than me, but he came from a very humble background. His field wasn't good enough to make him a millionaire. Peter did hold some resentment towards it. He and Julia liked sophisticated and expensive things. He often complained about not having enough money. I was always glad to help them out with the little allowance my dad gave me. I even let Peter and Julia move in to my house after marriage. But neither Peter nor Julia were happy with my house. They said, "It's such a shame that you live in a small house. Your dad literally lives in a mansion. How come you bought such a small townhouse?" "I don't earn a lot, Peter. Dad lives in a mansion because he has lots of money. I'm a simple office employee earning a moderate salary. This house was difficult for me to buy as well. Dad helped me out with the down payment." "Well, if he helped you out, he should have got you a better place. I'm sure your mom had left him something to give you when you became older." "I'm not entitled to anything, Julia. Whatever my mom left behind is my dad's now. She died suddenly, so there was no will. I don't mind if I don't get anything. I'm happy with the way things are." "That's a ridiculous thing to say, Zoe. I sure would have loved to inherit a lot of money. You know what? Your dad should trade houses with us. He lives alone, so he doesn't need the space anyway. Right, Mom?" "Yeah, Peter's right, Zoe. You could ask." "Absolutely not. That house is my dad's, and he deserves to live comfortably as long as he is alive." "Well, he won't be alive for long now that he's sick. We can wait and compromise for a few years and see what happens. Ultimately, everything will be yours. After your dad dies, you will have plenty of money to buy a big house and more." The way Julia and Peter were already making plans to spend my inheritance was super disturbing. It also didn't help that they regularly asked me to ask my dad for more money. It's not like we were hurting for cash. Peter and Julia simply wanted the millionaire life even if they weren't one. Honestly, I was getting tired of their behavior. However, the real drama happened after my father passed away. My dad's cancer took him away from me pretty soon. I was devastated but got little support from Peter or Julia. They were only concerned about the date of the will reading and didn't even help with the funeral. Hell, they refused to attend the funeral because my dad was no one to them. I was heartbroken and furious. At that point, my dad's words kept coming back to me. I was getting suspicious of them and started to have doubts about their intentions. I was afraid that they were really after my inheritance money. They were not allowed to be in the reading of the will. Peter and Julia said, "Why the hell are we not allowed to read the will? This is ridiculous. Lawrence was my own father-in-law." Yes, this is ridiculous. We are family and should be present for this event. We have the right to know what Lawrence left in the will. At least my son should be allowed to be there. Your son is not in the will, Julia, so he cannot read the will. Why are you two so obsessed with inheritance? You two didn't even come to the funeral. It was funny how my dad was suddenly family when it came to getting an inheritance. I was pretty annoyed at Julia and Peter. What was worse was that they started to hound me as soon as I got back from reading the will. They were not allowed to see the will. I had a hard time dealing with the grief of losing my father, but I got no words of support or sympathy from them. They simply wanted to know about my inheritance. Julia asked me, "Zoe, we have been wondering about something for a while now. How much inheritance did you receive from your parents? You must have got a lot of money. How much money did you get?" My parents unfortunately didn't leave me any money in my inheritance, so I received 0. What? You didn't get any money? But your parents were rich. They should have left you something. I don't believe that you didn't get any money. I'm sure you are lying to us, Zoe. There is no way your parents didn't leave you a single penny. No, Peter. There was no money in my inheritance. The will didn't even mention me getting any kind of money. You can check my bank balance in a few days and find out. But what about their riches? Who will get those? You are their only child. I don't know about that, Julia. The lawyer just told me that I didn't get any money. It's fine by me. It was my parents' money, and it's up to them who they would give it to. That is ridiculous. You need to fight for the money. It should be yours. There is no money, Peter. They didn't have much money in the end. Whatever was left was given to charity. They have been planning this for a while now. Julia and Peter looked very pissed by what I said. I had no idea why they were being this weird about my inheritance. I almost told them the full details, but something stopped me from doing it. There was this creeping doubt in my mind that my husband and mother-in-law were up to something. I waited for them to digest the news. When Julia and Peter kept pressuring me for more information, I put my foot down. I told them firmly that I didn't get any money and even offered to show them my account in a few days. Well, a month passed and nothing showed up. In the meantime, Peter grew very restless and stopped being affectionate with me. He was always checking my account and constantly hounding me for information on my inheritance. I was starting to see where this was going. Finally, one day, I decided to put an end to it. I showed them my bank statements and said, "See, I told you that I didn't receive anything. I'm not hiding any secret inheritance money from you two. Do you believe me now?" Wow, our years of hard work just went down the drain then. Zoe's parents weren't rich and she didn't even get $100 in the will. This is ridiculous. I can't believe this. I can't believe this either. Mom, I stayed in this marriage for nothing. I married Zoe for nothing. It was all a waste of time. What the hell does that mean? Why are you talking like this, Peter? Why do you think he's saying these things, Zoe? Who the hell would marry you without thinking about the money? My son simply married you so that we can bank on your inheritance. Now I see that you didn't even get a penny. I can't believe I wasted 5 freaking years on a useless girl like her. I could have done so much better. I was stunned to hear them speak that way about me. I could finally tell that Peter married me for money. My parents were right about him and his mom. They were freaking gold diggers. I was so freaking done with my husband and mother-in-law. I was breaking inside. But what they said next turned me into stone. Julia looked at Peter solemnly and said, "What is done, Peter, but now it's time for you to divorce Zoe. There is no reason why you should stay with her anymore. You will have time to find a new rich wife. This time, we will make sure she actually has some money to her name." Are you freaking kidding me? Julia, you are asking Peter to divorce me over money? Peter, are you going to listen to her? Of course, I would listen to her, Zoe. I married you so that I and my mom could have a comfortable life. We grew up poor, and I didn't even go to college. I had no way of earning a lot of money. So, you pretended to love me and then tricked me into marrying you? You thought that my parents would give me lots of money that I would readily share with you two? Yes, that's what I thought. It was the only way I could give my mom the life she wanted. But now I see that my efforts were in vain. Mom's right. I need to divorce you and keep looking. I was stunned by what Peter said. He said those things so nonchalantly that I started to question my own sanity. Julia and Peter went on to express their frustration at my marriage and myself. I didn't hear a word after a while. I was too busy coming to terms with what they just threw at me. Their total lack of reaction and Peter's sudden shift in behavior were both depressing and angering to me. After a point, I was so mad that I wanted to scream and throw things. However, I didn't do any of that. I calmly said, "Okay then, Peter, if a divorce is what you want, you will get it. I was never the one to say no to your demands. I might as well give in to your demand now as a last favor." "So, you will agree to a mutual divorce? It'll save us both a lot of money. By the looks of it, you don't have much to go on anyway." "Don't think of this as an opportunity to get alimony from my son. We will fight you tooth and nail before you give up that dream. You better preserve your lawyer fees and agree to a mutual divorce. It'll be best for you." "You're right. I don't have a lot of money right now. So I decided something. I will agree to a mutual divorce, but you have to sign a clause saying that we won't share any of our assets with each other." "That's not a problem at all. You don't have much and neither do I at the moment. If you can forego alimony, I'll agree to sign a divorce and won't claim anything from you." Me and Peter discussed the details of the divorce and made sure we were on the same page. I could see that Julia and Peter were both happy about me not making a fuss out of the divorce. I guess they didn't expect me to be so calm about it. Truth be told, ever since that day, I have been crying on my way to and from work. I used to sit in the parking lot of my office and cry for an hour before and after work. Peter never noticed my puffy eyes or even asked why I was leaving early for work and coming home late. Julia didn't even bother looking at me after she discovered that I had no money. All of their behavior just made me even more determined to get out of the marriage as soon as possible. I actually had Peter and Julia move out of my house to a rented space in the neighborhood. They soon settled in while we waited for the divorce to finalize. True to his word, Peter didn't demand a share of my house. I also didn't ask for alimony. In his eyes, it was a fair deal. Well, he had no idea just how far I made things out to be. He came to know about it on the day our divorce was finalized. I went over to his new rented space to drop off my wedding and engagement ring. "So, I just wanted to return these to you since the marriage only brought bad times in my life. I don't want to have any memory of it." "Are you sure you want to return it? I mean, you might need the money after all." "It's so funny, you know, Zoe. You must have laughed at our poverty before. Look where you are now. My son is being generous and giving you the rings. You might need to sell them when your stupid job doesn't pay enough." "We won't miss the rings. They're cheap ones anyway." "What would I need to sell the rings for money, Julia?" "You don't have to be embarrassed, Zoe. We already know how your parents didn't leave you anything. I guess they lost everything due to poor financial decisions, leaving their daughter destitute." At that point, I laughed very loudly in her face. Julia looked confused and so did Peter. I could tell that Peter was somewhat annoyed by his mother's behavior, and he was also surprised at my laughter. Julia said, "Why the hell are you laughing, Zoe? Did I say something funny?" "It's freaking funny how you think I'm destitute. Julia, it's also funny that you think my parents lost all their fortune." "Well, of course you're destitute. Your parents didn't even leave you a penny. They surely messed up and ruined your life by not leaving you an inheritance." "I never said that I didn't get an inheritance, Julia. I simply told you two that I didn't get any money. My parents did, in fact, leave me plenty of inheritance." "What the hell does that mean? You have an inheritance? I'm so confused." "My parents could see you and Julia for the little gold diggers you two are, so they made a secret clause in their will. It said that I would receive no monetary inheritance. Instead, I was given this entire neighborhood as my inheritance." "What? You own this neighborhood now? How is that possible? We would have known about your inheritance if this was true. We even signed a lease with an estate manager who didn't tell us the name of the owner. My parents wanted me to wait for a year before I got my inheritance. They wanted me to test you two and see if you are really with me for money or love. Well, of course, you failed the test, and now you won't get anything from me. Also, the estate manager was appointed by my parents to take care of the property before I inherited it. They were smart people, you know. That is impossible. I don't believe a word you're saying. You're just embarrassed because you don't have money anymore. Oh, really, Peter? Is that what you and your mother have concluded from this? Well, why don't you call your landlord and find out from him? Don't worry, we will do that. Then everyone will see just what a big liar you are. Julia and Peter called their landlord and asked about what I said. Since their landlord was the estate manager, he told them everything. Julia and Peter were stunned. They looked really panicked. After cutting the call, they said, "You lied to us. You tricked us into thinking that you don't have anything, but you own the entire housing society now." "How dare you trick us, Zoe? You wanted all your riches to yourself, so you tricked Peter into divorcing you and made him sign papers that he wouldn't claim anything from you." I laughed at their audacity to turn this one on me. It was finally dawning on them that they had messed up royally, and now it was time for some sweet karma. I said, "It's funny you accuse me of tricking you two. Peter, you tricked me into marrying you by telling me that you love me. Julia, you helped your son in this plan and you were the one to tell him to divorce me. If anyone here was being a scammer, it was you two. As for my inheritance, you asked me how much money I got and I answered truthfully." "This was all a misunderstanding, Zoe. What happened is in the past. Why don't we just try again in a new light? We did spend 4 years together. It would be a shame to throw it away." "So now you want me back in your life. Funny how you were desperate to start afresh from a new girl. I hear that you are already seeing someone rich. Don't worry, I'll inform her about what a snake you are." Peter and Julia started to beg me not to mess up this new relationship. Peter told me that since I wasn't ready to give him another chance, I shouldn't mess up his future. I told them to freak off. Also, I informed them that I will kick them out once the property is transferred to my name. They panicked at that and started to beg me even more. In the weeks that followed, Julia and Peter showed up at my house to beg me to forgive them. Peter and Julia already have an eviction on their record, so it is unlikely anyone would give them rent. The only reason they were staying on my property was because I asked the estate manager to allow it. I also called Peter's new victim and told her everything. She was horrified by what Peter and Julia did and broke up with him instantly. She even showed me the texts. After this fiasco, Peter and Julia beat down my door to call me names. I promptly called the police and had them off my property. After I got my inheritance in my name, I kicked them out very swiftly. They didn't expect me to go through with the threat. They did show up on my property again and the police were called. The cops gave them a stern warning and I filed for a restraining order. Turns out the entire town knew about what happened. They were essentially disowned by friends and had to leave the city to start afresh. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying my new wealth and am finally free from gold-digging leeches. Hi guys, I'm June and my husband Gabriel is also helping me write this story. Before I even get into it, let me just tell you something. My first meeting with Gabriel's parents, Louise and Lena, was a disaster. Do you want to know what they said? Here it is. "I can't believe you would date such a loser, Gabriel. This woman literally doesn't have any plus points to her. She only works a desk job in a small office. How the hell will she ever give us a good life?" "Mom, I love June, and she is the only one I want. I don't care about how much money she has or earns. I never cared about those things." "Well, we care about them, Gabriel. We had made that very clear to you from the very beginning. If you had paid any attention to us, you would have listened." "Listen to me, Gabriel. If this girl has nothing else, she can't be our daughter-in-law. We won't approve of her. You need to go find someone else. No, Mom. June is the one for me. I'm going to marry her. Hell, I had the entire proposal planned and now you have ruined everything. I was stunned the entire time this conversation played out. Yes, I was surprised that Gabriel was planning to propose to me. We had been dating for 3 years and I was hoping he would ask me to marry him. But I didn't expect him to make a move this fast. But that wasn't the only reason why I was stunned. Louis and Lena's behavior towards our relationship was extremely alarming to me. Gabriel had warned me about them. He had said, "Look, June, I've already met your dad. He's a great man and a great father as well. I can see that you have very high expectations of my parents. Let me just tell you that they are not good people." Gabriel, how can you say that about your poor parents? They must be good people since they have worked hard to raise you. It must have been difficult for them to manage. They are truly hard-working people. You don't understand, June. Yes, they have worked hard to put me through college, which helped me get a good job. But they did everything out of greed. They have always wanted me to marry rich so that you can use my wife's money to have a comfortable life. They won't be happy when they find out that you work in an office. Naive little me had no idea how cruel and selfish parents can be. My own parents were wonderful people and even Gabriel accepted that himself. While Gabriel was financially supporting his parents, he didn't have much contact with them. For some reason, he despised them. Still, he didn't cut them off because they always guilted him about the sacrifices they made. The day I met his parents was the day I realized how greedy Louis and Lena were. No matter how much Louis and Lena protested, Gabriel proposed to me and we got married. Louis and Lena threatened to boycott the wedding, but came anyway. I later learned that Gabriel had begged and pleaded with them to come. He didn't have much family on his side and desperately wanted his parents there. His parents only agreed to come after he told them that I wasn't a desolate orphan with no money. My father owned his own house and had some property to his name. Apparently, it satisfied them enough to make them come to the wedding. However, they never failed to make their motives clear. They told me, "Just so you know, June, we still don't approve of this marriage. Gabriel is a successful man and we expected more from him. He really disappointed us by not marrying rich. We wouldn't have come if we thought you had nothing. Thank God your father at least has something to his name. I hope you don't forget us and our gracious presence today when you finally get the house inheritance." I am getting married today, guys. My father is healthy and fine. There is absolutely no reason for you two to even mention an inheritance today. I stormed off, away from them after hearing what they had to say. My father was the only living family in my life, and hearing things like that on my wedding day made me sick. I also couldn't believe the audacity of Louis and Lena to demand that I share my money with them. I didn't inform Gabriel about what happened. I didn't want to spoil his day as well. Plus, I knew that it was hard for him to cut off his parents. Sadly for us, it all went downhill from there. Me and Gabriel were always very happy together, but his parents were always on our ass about our finances. Louis and Lena kept on pestering me and Gabriel about exactly how much my father was worth. We never gave them a favorable answer, so they kept pestering us. Honestly speaking, their behavior was embarrassing and entitled. There was no reason they deserved to know how much my dad was worth. We couldn't get rid of them because we lived in the same city and Gabriel wanted to have some relationship with his parents. For a few years, I put up with Louis and Lena's greedy ways. They did manage to drain mine and Gabriel's savings after demanding more and more money. They made up excuses about the money and even guilt-tripped us when we tried to refuse. Their comments on me and my inheritance also never stopped. I simply started to ignore them. However, I hit rock bottom when my father was diagnosed with cancer. It was an aggressive form of cancer, and he didn't have long to live. Since he lived far away from us, we flew to him a couple of times to visit. Louis and Lena were never happy with that. They said, "You should not waste so much money on flying to your father. You two are doing this too frequently. It will drain you of your money." "Yes, that's right. He won't live long anyway and is in hospice. You can't do anything for him anymore. So it's better to save your money and not waste it there." Visiting my dying father is not wasting money, guys. And what we do with our money is completely up to us. You are no one to tell us. We are your in-laws and have the right to say something. It's for your own good. I think you two should rather spend money on people who will live long enough to enjoy it. I was furious at what they had said. With my dad's condition, I was already starting to lose my mind. If you have lost a parent, you would know what I was going through. In this tough time, Louis and Lena were not being supportive at all. Instead, they were covertly asking me not to visit my father and spend money on them instead. Thankfully, Gabriel stood up for me and shut down the conversation. However, from that day onwards, I was determined to teach them a lesson. Once I was in a better place, I vowed to show them their place. My father passed away around 3 months after his diagnosis. I was devastated. I really didn't want to lose him that fast. I saw his declining health and knew it was time. Still, it was hard for me to accept. Gabriel was my rock throughout the entire time. He was the one who held my hand while I flew to my father's town to arrange his funeral. Louis and Lena were only blowing up my phone, demanding to know about my inheritance and how much I planned to spend on the funeral. I was disgusted with those messages, and so was Gabriel. But again, we didn't do anything. We both agreed that they would be served their just desserts after we went back home from the funeral. As predicted, Louis and Lena showed up as soon as I and Gabriel returned home. After coming into the house after us, they started to hound us with questions. They said, "So the funeral is finally over. God, I've been dying to know what you got in the inheritance. Your father must have at least left you the house." "What are you even talking about, Lena? How does my inheritance concern you in any way? I came back from my father's funeral, and this is what you ask?" "Oh, please, June. Don't be such a spoiled sport. Ever since Gabriel married you, we've been wondering why he did it. I mean, you don't have a great job, and neither are you beautiful. What did he ever see in you?" Me and Louis guessed that it must be because of money. "Mom, what is wrong with you? How can you even insult me and my wife like that? We married each other for love. I have told you this countless times. At least have the decency not to bring it up today." "Gabriel, there is no reason to be so dramatic. We're simply asking her a question. Your wife can just answer us and solve our curiosity. We don't mind if you have married June for money. In fact, we would be happy to know that you have bagged a great prize." You are truly horrible parents to accuse your own son of being a gold digger. You two are insane. I wonder how a great man like Gabriel was born to such disgusting people. Enough with the small talk, June. Tell us what you got in your inheritance. This is the day I was waiting for. Your father must have left you something. Gabriel told me that he lived in a big house. You could just tell now and buy us a house instead. We will make great use of the money. Besides, we are your parents now. Hearing this just made my blood boil. I was seething with rage while Gabriel looked at his parents in disbelief. Even he couldn't comprehend the fact that his parents could be so greedy and selfish. My father wasn't even dead for a month, and they were already planning to spend my inheritance on themselves. Hell, they even started to call themselves my new parents. At that point, I knew I had to do something. For years, I have put up with them for Gabriel's sake. Today, I wanted to show Gabriel just how bad his parents were. I said, "Actually, my dad didn't have the house in his name when he died. I'm sorry to tell you that. He did own that house for a long time, but he had to let it go for reasons." What? So you're telling us that your father didn't even own his house anymore? No, like I said, he owned it a long time ago. He had to let go of the house very recently. So no, I did not get the house or any inheritance, as they say. Oh my God, so your father was a poor man after all. I knew you were too cheap to be wealthy. Your father couldn't even keep his house till the end. That poor man died with no house under his name. Leave our son, as you're good for nothing. Mom, our marriage isn't over just because she didn't get an inheritance. You can't just ask her to leave me because of a stupid reason like that. Don't speak over us, Gabriel. We won't allow you to continue this marriage anymore. You have disappointed us by marrying into a poor family. You didn't once think about how you could keep your parents happy. I'm ashamed to have a son like you. June, I'm sure you must have trapped my son into marrying you. People like you can use cheap tricks to lure men. Your final plan was to cut us off and enjoy my son's money alone. Well, guess what, June? I won't let that happen. Louis and Lena started to harass Gabriel to give me a divorce and leave. They told him that he should marry a rich girl so that my in-laws could live the life of luxury they always wanted. Gabriel was getting pissed and started to break down. I knew that I had to take the opportunity to help him make a decision. I said, "Gabriel, are you going to let your parents do this to us? I have put up with their gold-digging ways for a long time now. I didn't open my mouth because you felt guilty cutting them off. Are you still going to continue to keep them in our life?" I don't think we can come back from this, June. I've had enough as well. Mom, Dad, today you have shown me just how bad you are. For years, you have used me to fulfill your dreams. I won't tolerate this anymore. Don't be stupid, Gabriel. This girl would influence you and take you away from your family. We are doing this for your own good as well. We didn't spend money on you so that you can go do charity for someone else. You need to divorce your wife and start afresh. There is still time for you to get a rich wife. We will help you this time. You have made too many mistakes on your own. No, I won't leave my wife because she didn't get an inheritance. I'm done being a puppet in your hands. I will stay with June. You two won't be allowed in my life anymore. What will you do by keeping June in your life? This is not what we ever wanted. She's totally unworthy of you. If you stay in this marriage, we don't want anything to do with you anymore. We won't help you when she robs you and leaves you destitute. Seeing Lena and Louis's horrible behavior, I finally decided to reveal the truth to them. I knew that telling them about my true net worth would make them beg and plead at my feet. I wanted to go all out on them. I wanted Gabriel not to regret his decision in any way, so I said, "There will be no need for that, guys. I don't need to rob Gabriel and take his money. I have plenty of money on my own, and I will take care of Gabriel just fine without your help." Look who's talking. You don't have to lie to us to make yourself look better, June. We know the truth. Yes, the truth is that you are the daughter of a poor man, and you don't work a good enough job to make lots of money. In a few months, you will go after Gabriel's money once you are destitute. Well, actually, I am not a poor man's daughter. I have 50 million in my bank account. No, I didn't earn it from my job. Rather, I got it from my father. That is impossible. Your father didn't have anything in his name. You said that yourself. Don't try to fool us, June. We can see through your lies. It won't work for us. We will make sure you divorce our son and leave him to us. I smiled at them and then looked at Gabriel. He was still looking very pissed, but gave me the signal to go ahead. He knew me inside out, and so he knew what was coming. I opened my bank account and showed them my bank balance. Louis and Lena took one look at it and had their eyebrows shoot up to the sky. They looked at each other and said, "No, no, no, this is impossible. You must have fabricated these bank statements." "You said you didn't get an inheritance. Hell, you even said that your father didn't own his house till the end. Where did this money come from?" What I didn't tell you was the fact that my father owned a big ranch where he lived. He sold the ranch and the house before he died. He gave me an early inheritance before signing himself into hospice. He didn't want me to use my own money for his care. He wasn't like you two. Louis and Lena couldn't believe what they saw. Even my words didn't sound true to them. So they asked Gabriel for the truth. When he confirmed what they saw, they went quiet for a minute and looked at each other again. Then, suddenly, they changed their tune completely. And they said, "Oh, this is such great news. Here I was thinking that my son made a huge mistake. You should have told us sooner about your money." "Yeah, we got riled up for nothing. Your father did well for yourself, June. I'm sure you'll make good use of that money now. Like I said, we're like your own parents. Since this issue has been solved, there's no need for you to leave." "Gabriel, you should have said something to us. We doubted your capabilities for nothing. You did marry well, son. I'm so happy today." With the expression Gabriel was making, I knew that my work was done. He would take care of the rest, so I held back my cuss words and let him do the talking. I trusted my husband to make the right choices, and he didn't disappoint me. Gabriel was fuming and started to scream at his parents. He said, "You still have the audacity to stand here and keep talking to us. Hell, how do you still expect June to pay for your comfort? You were hounding us to get divorced, and now you suddenly claim that she's family? How could you do this?" "We didn't know her net worth back then, Gabriel. She hid the truth from us. How are we supposed to know that she's actually rich?" "Yeah, June, we apologize for assuming the worst. You did surprise us. Anyway, now that you have an apology, can we move past this already?" "No, absolutely not. There is no way I'm forgiving you two for what you did today. I just got back from burying my father, and you two didn't even let me grieve in peace. I will never forget or forgive this. I think it has been enough already. Since you two think so lowly of me, there is no reason for me to keep you in my life. Today, I will protect myself and my wife from your toxic selves. Get out of my house. And don't even think about coming back. From next month onwards, you are on your own. I won't be helping you out financially anymore. You don't deserve any kind of help after today." After Gabriel said that, Louise and Lena went absolutely ballistic on us. They also kept begging us and pleading us not to cut them off. Neither Gabriel nor I paid any attention to their requests. In fact, Gabriel was so mad that he threatened to call the police if they did not leave our house soon. After they heard the threats, both Louis and Lena left our property but continued to blow up our phones with calls and texts. We blocked their number before reminding them that we will press charges if they don't stop harassing us. For the next few days, Gabriel completely dealt with his family while I grieved my father properly. I was finally in a peaceful setting where I could reflect on my childhood memories and try to remember my father for the good times. He truly was an amazing man. As soon as he understood that I didn't want to move back south, he sold his property so that I didn't have to worry about it. He didn't even want me to spend money on his medical bills. So he used some of the sale money to pay for hospice. He was truly a great parent, and I still miss him a lot. On the other hand, Gabriel was also grieving the loss of his family, but for other reasons. Yes, he was finally free from his toxic family, but some people were guilting him about abandoning them. Those people did stop hounding him when Gabriel told them the full story. Now, everyone who knows Louis and Lena is disgusted with them. The duo still tried to contact us even after we blocked their numbers and changed our locks. We are contemplating taking out restraining orders if they don't stop soon. Meanwhile, I have recently found out that I am pregnant. I'm sad that my father couldn't be a part of my child's life, but me and Gabriel are really enjoying this surprise and preparing ourselves to have a little bundle of joy in our arms soon. Hi guys, my name's Winter. I've been reading some crazy mother-in-law stories that I could relate to. Like some of these stories, my life was also almost ruined by my husband Cade and mother-in-law Pauline. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, became my friend and confidant. I will tell you how I avoided being stuck paying for my mooching husband and mother-in-law. I married Cade very recently, actually. Sadly for us, the marriage didn't last long. Now that I know his real face, I consider it a blessing in disguise. You see, I'm a girl who's hungry for love. Cade understood that and gave me all his affection. Since we both had stable jobs, we decided to get married around 2 years after dating. Yes, I know we rushed it, but I had no idea how fake Cade's love was for me. When I married him, I thought he had a stable job like me. After our marriage, I was hit with a horrible truth. Cade said, "Winter, since we're now married, I think you should know something. I've been hiding a secret from you." "What are you talking about, Cade? You are scaring me." "I'm sorry, Winter. I had been lying about my job to you for a while. Remember the last job I had? I got laid off just before we got married." "What? Why didn't you tell me anything? I thought you were not contributing to our expenses because you had some debt before our marriage." "No. Winter, it's not that. I should have told you this sooner, but I was ashamed. In my family, men who can't provide are looked down upon, so I didn't want anyone to know. Promise me you won't tell anyone." I was a little miffed by the fact that Cade waited so long to tell me. I should have seen those red flags and saved myself, but I was naive. I decided to support him while he looked for a new job. Well, he didn't start looking even 6 months into our marriage. What was worse was the fact that I was also stuck paying his mother, Pauline, a monthly allowance. Now, let me tell you something. This woman is horrible. She treats other women like shit and always thought that I was a gold digger. She made her thoughts very clear publicly and seized all chances to humiliate me. It didn't help that Cade never stopped her. It was his sister Kylie who stood up for me. One day, she told me in private, "Winter, you are a nice woman, but I don't think my brother deserves you. My family doesn't have the best people." "What do you mean, Kylie? So far I've found everyone to be pretty decent." "They are not good people, Winter. They will never appreciate you since you are a woman. I've gone through this, so I know. Look at me, Winter. I have such an established career, but all my mom does is dote on Cade because he's a man." Kylie's words were very true. Pauline did tend to put down women and praise her son for everything. I had always wondered how she would feel when she knew that I was the one paying for her expenses. I never knew back then that I would get to witness her reaction firsthand, and in the process, I would also see what a vile person Cade is. It all started at a family dinner which I was invited to. There were a lot of people on Cade's side and we were having a lot of fun. But what my husband did at the dinner made me absolutely speechless. He was telling everyone that he was the breadwinner of the family. I would have accepted it if he had stopped at that. But he started to make fun of me and make up lies about me. He detailed how I made very little money and made him pay for my luxuries. Everyone was laughing with him while he portrayed me to be a gold digger. Their conversations both shocked and disgusted me. Pauline said, "See, I was right about her all along. Winter is nothing but a mooch. I would seriously rather be homeless than dependent on her anyway. Thank God my son is such a hard worker. It's too bad he is set on doing charity for his wife." "What can I say, Mom? You know your son is such a generous man. Sometimes I think that's why Winter married me. She can't take care of her expenses to save her life. I wonder what would have become of her if I wasn't here." "She would have ended up homeless and on the street anyway. I would say that she would deserve it. Useless people like her absolutely need to get punished for being lazy." I was stunned to hear what Cade and Pauline was saying about me. I knew that Pauline always hated me, but the betrayal coming from Cade was too much for me to handle. I seriously couldn't believe what he had said. Not only had he lied about being the breadwinner, but also he made fun of me. I was almost starting to tear up from the pain. It was Kylie who decided to put a stop to the conversation. She said, "You two are being unnecessarily cruel on Winter. She's a great person and a hard-working woman. She doesn't deserve your horrible words. You should apologize to her, guys." "Why the hell will we apologize to her? We're just telling the truth. She should be the one apologizing for being such a parasite. God, I can't believe my son literally has a pet for his wife. Winter can't even support herself. Like I said, she's lucky to have me. Men should take care of their women. Women tend to be very dependent on men. It's only natural that Winter would act this way. She is a woman after all." Cade and Pauline started to laugh at their own jokes. Even Kylie couldn't digest the poison they were spewing. Since she was a hard-working woman herself, these comments also hurt her a lot. It broke her heart to see her mom praise Cade just because he's a man. Meanwhile, I was starting to get over my hurt and instead felt red-hot anger. I literally sacrificed my time and money to look after these two ungrateful idiots. I couldn't recognize Cade anymore. I was furious but refrained from yelling at him then and there. Cade and Pauline continued their jokes until I was sick and tired of it. I had to fake a headache to leave the family dinner sooner. Cade seemed a little disappointed since Pauline and a few other people were encouraging him. When we returned home, I finally screamed at Cade. I said, "What the hell did you want to establish today? Why were you saying those things about me? I am not a parasite who lives off you. It's you who doesn't work anymore." "My God, Winter, you need to chill out. It wasn't even that deep. You know the men in my family like to be a little macho. It would not do me good if people knew that I was unemployed." "So, you had to go out of your way to paint me as a parasite? You couldn't have just lied about your job? You put me down in front of the whole family to satisfy your ego. How do you justify this, Cade? Answer me." "You are being way too dramatic today, Winter. Learn to let things go. You're spoiling all my fun. Now calm down and go back to sleep. It's been a long night." "No, absolutely not. I am not going to pretend that I was okay with what you did today. Hell, did you even hear what your mother said? Instead of defending me, you joined Pauline in humiliating me even more? Leave my mother off this, Winter. You are the one who can't take some jokes and harmless teasing. You're simply blaming us for your insecurities. Now, let's go to bed. You have to go to work tomorrow. I have the luxury to stay at home and waste time. You can't do that." Cade said that and casually went to the bedroom to sleep. I was stunned by how nonchalantly he dismissed my feelings. Hell, he couldn't even understand why I was reacting this way. Even after being home alone with me, he wouldn't accept that his words were hurtful, and he was still defending his mother. That night, I stayed on the couch and thought about things through and through. Everything was starting to make sense. I understood that I had been a fool. Cade and his mother used me to fund their lives, but they never held any feelings for me at all. Cade's attitude towards today's events also told me something that I was in denial about. Cade was using me, and he didn't care about me anymore. I was just a money machine to him who gave him what he wanted. At that point, I knew that my marriage was becoming financially abusive for me. I knew that I needed to get out. The next day, Cade acted like nothing happened. It was like he had forgotten how he had insulted me the day before. I tried to talk to him about it again, but he kept shutting me down. I got so fed up that it was easier for me to make a decision. But before I did anything, I needed to call Kylie. I called her from my office and said, "Kylie, I need to talk to you about what happened last night. Thank you for being the only one who stood up for me at least a little." "Oh, don't mention that, Winter. It was a weak attempt to try and stop them. Cade and Mom can get cruel when they want. It was wrong of Cade to insult you like that just because he's the breadwinner." "Yeah, about that, Kylie. Cade has been lying to everyone about that one. He isn't the breadwinner, but I am. He left his job about 6 months ago. He hasn't told anyone." "Oh my God! So he was lying to everyone? Does Mom know about this?" Pauline had no idea that her son wasn't paying her allowance. It was me who was giving her money. Cade would never compromise his manly image even to his mother, so he's been lying to her as well. "I can't believe these people, Winter. It's bad enough that I have to put up with them, but for you, it must be crazy." "Yes, Kylie. I'm done being the ATM for Cade and Pauline. I have realized that Cade just married me for money. He knew I was hungry for love and would do what he wanted. Thank God I saw his true face before wasting many more years on him." "Are you planning to do something, Winter? You can tell me. I'll try to help you as much as I can. I understand your place, Winter. I have been suffering for years as well." I told Kylie what I was planning to do. I wanted to teach Cade and Pauline a nice lesson for their horrible views on women, and I needed them to understand that they can't just use people how they want. So I made a plan with Kylie and set out to execute it. Then I went straight to a lawyer's office with a few things in mind. After I was done with that, I decided to wait for a week before executing the first half of my plan. When the week was up, I was prepared to start with Cade. He was the one going down first. Just 6 months into our marriage, I sat him down and said, "Cade, there's something important I need to talk about. You need to be patient and listen." "This better not be about that stupid family dinner again, Winter. It's starting to piss me off. You need to drop the issue and stop being dramatic. I hate dramatic women." "Well, in that case, I have some good news for you, Cade. You don't have to be with me anymore. I have filed for the annulment of our marriage." "What? No, you're joking with me. Why would you annul our marriage?" "You will want to know why, Cade. It is because of you. First of all, you lied about being employed and tricked me into supporting your mooching lifestyle. When I still try to communicate with you, I discover that you don't even care about my feelings anymore. Might I also add that you did nothing to protect me from your mother?" "Look, Winter, those were some minor inconveniences. We don't need to get an annulment just because of that." "Then what is your plan, Cade? Want to string me along for a few years until you're fit to claim alimony from me? Those plans won't work anymore, Cade. I know exactly what kind of a man you are. You used me to support yours and your mother's life. In return, you gave me nothing but insults and shame." Cade looked at my angry form and immediately started to apologize for his actions. He understood that I was not exactly the doormat he had always imagined me to be. Instead, I was a woman who knew how to stand up for herself. As soon as he heard annulment, he realized that his human ATM was going to escape. So he started to plead with me. He had no idea what more I had in store for him. He said, "Winter, please don't do this to us. We were so happy together. We don't have to destroy everything for a small mishap." You call this a small mishap? For days, I have tried to talk to you about your actions, Cade. You ignored me every time and got mad at me for bringing this up. Not once did you even apologize for being such a prick. Our relationship was good until you decided to trick me into supporting you and your mother. We can negotiate that, Winter. Look, I messed up and I'm sorry. There, I even apologized to you. Isn't that enough? I don't want your filthy apology, Cade. I'm done with you, and we are getting an annulment. Oh, there is another thing I forgot to mention. I pulled out some documents from my bag and handed them to Cade. He was very confused about what I was showing him. When he read the papers, he was in shock again. He started to shake and said, Is this? Yes, Cade. These documents are about our marriage annulment and your eviction notice. Since I informed you about the annulment, I thought I might as well give you the eviction papers too. No, Winter, you can't kick me out. I'm your husband. You can't just do this to me. Where is your attention, Cade? I already told you that I have filed for annulment. Are you deaf or blind? You won't be my husband for much longer. Please don't kick me out, Winter. I don't have anywhere else to go. You know, I can't tell Mom about me losing my job. That simply cannot happen. You had no problem lying to Pauline about your job. I'm sure you'll find a way. You know, make up a story or something. As for your mom, she will no longer get any money from me, of course. Since I am a generous woman, I'm letting you figure out a plan before the month is up. I said my part and left Cade to fend for himself. I knew he would call Kylie for help, but as we had planned, she will deny him any kind of help. Kylie had suffered enough humiliation at the hands of Cade and Pauline. She was fed up with them and wanted to cut contact anyway, so she was eager to participate in my plan. For the next month, Cade did everything in his power to make me change my mind. He turned very romantic and showered me with affection. He even bought me gifts with the last allowance I gave him. I simply left them in the main bedroom and went off to sleep in the guest room. I gave him the main bedroom as a last gift from my side. In a few days, he would probably have to kiss the cold street anyway. Until the very end, he was convinced that I wouldn't kick him out. Meanwhile, Pauline had no idea about what was going on. When the month was up and she didn't receive her allowance, she stormed into my house and said, "Why the hell didn't I get my allowance, Winter? I know it was you. It has to be you. You never liked the fact that Cade sent me money. You must have intentionally misplaced the money or stolen it." Believe me, Pauline, I don't freaking care if your dear son wants to send you money. He can do so as he pleases. I don't need his money to feed or clothe myself. You are lying, Winter. Cade has told everyone that you are dependent on him. You have already drained his account and have set your eyes on my money. First of all, Pauline, it was never your money to begin with. Now that I say it, the money wasn't Cade's either. You need to stop saying that. Why will I stop saying that? My poor son works very hard to look after me. I will scream it to the world to tell everyone what a successful man he is. Is that right, Pauline? Then what will you scream and tell the world when I tell you that Cade is unemployed and that I was the one sending you money? That is nonsense. I will never believe it, and neither will others. Cade has told me that he is the breadwinner of this house. Right, Cade? Cade remained quiet and looked down to the floor. Pauline was staring at him, expecting him to crack a joke about me or tell her how he is the breadwinner of this house. But this time, Cade remained silent. He knew that he could not keep lying for any longer. When Cade didn't speak for a while, Pauline said, "Cade, why are you not saying anything? Tell your wife I'm right." How will he say that, Pauline? Your useless son doesn't even have the guts to accept that he lives off his wife's income. Yes, I am the breadwinner and sole provider of this household. I was the one giving you money because Cade wanted to take care of his mom. No, that can't be possible. My son is a man and won't depend on a woman. You are lying to me. You will find out soon enough, Pauline. Since I am now seeking annulment of my marriage, you can enjoy being homeless with your son. I guess he didn't tell you this as well. It's been a month since I've given him an eviction notice. He will need to move out by next week. Hearing this, Pauline starts to interrogate Cade about what I said. Since Cade realized that he couldn't hide the truth anymore, he told her the truth. After some back and forth, Pauline realized that she had been dependent on me all along. Suddenly, she was begging me not to leave Cade and stop paying for their expenses. I laughed in their faces and reminded Pauline what she had thought of me last month. Pauline and Cade both started to apologize to me and begged me to change my mind. I simply turned and left. Till the next week, Cade and Pauline continued to pester me with their begging. When the week was up, I told Cade to leave my property or else I would call the police. He left with his things and moved in with Pauline. From what Kylie told me, they had been pestering her for money. After she's firmly said no, they turned their attention back to me. I blocked their numbers and told Cade only to contact me through a lawyer. Cade and I got separated very easily. He didn't have the money to fight me in court, so he had to give in to the annulment. Last I heard, he and Pauline were being kicked out of her apartment after not paying rent for months. Since Kylie has cut contact with them and refused to send them money, they had to take turns crashing couches on other relatives' places. Even they were tired of hosting them for free and their future was unsure. As for me, I'm slowly rebuilding my life and learning to be content on my own. I have promised myself never to fall into anyone's trap again, and I hope I will find my true soulmate soon. Hello, my name's Macy and I'm 30 years old. I'm here to talk about how I let go of my leeching in-laws and husband. Before I start talking about my crappy experience, let me introduce myself some more. I grew up in a low-income family. Most months we barely made it to the end. Sometimes we even had to starve. I had seen what poverty was like firsthand. It's not something I take very lightly. I know what real hunger pains feel like. I know what it's like to survive winters without heating. I didn't want to perpetuate the cycle of poverty that my family seemed to be going through, so I studied really hard. I was fortunate enough for my parents to be able to afford my education. There was not a single day that went by when I wasn't buried in my books. All of my days studying, I got a full ride at my dream college. While at college, I picked up various odd jobs to keep myself afloat. If I had any extra money, I would send it back home to my parents. It was in my junior year of college that I met my husband, Sam. At the time, I was working as a barista at a cafe that was pretty popular among the students of my college. One of my co-workers at the time was Sam. We were somehow always stuck with opening and closing duties together, so as we worked, we began making small talk with each other. Soon, it got to a point where I eagerly waited for my opening and closing shifts because I loved working with Sam. Sam felt that way too because he asked me out. I said yes, and we ended up going on our very first date to the amusement park. We started seeing each other seriously. We were pursuing different fields, but both graduated at the top of our classes. We got placements with these amazing firms. They were a great starting point for us. We moved in together 5 months after graduating. We worked at our first jobs for about another year. We didn't make amazing money, but we made enough to get us by. Now, here's where Sam and I did things differently. While Sam chose to continue working with his firm and wait for promotions, I quit mine and started working at a different place. I was immediately given a small pay raise with my new job, and I kept doing that for a couple of years before I was easily making twice Sam's salary. Sam had gotten a couple of raises, but that was about it. I had told him on multiple occasions to follow what I had done, but he said that it was too much work for him. Obviously, with this large gap in our incomes, Sam wanted to make some changes to how we manage household expenses. We had been splitting everything 50-50, but then Sam didn't want to do that anymore. I've been needing to talk to you about something. What is it, darling? I know we've been splitting all our bills and expenses 50-50, but you're making double what I'm making. I don't think that's fair to me. What do you mean it's not fair? I mean, I'm practically struggling by the end of the month while you have more than enough to get by. Okay, but I'm not spending it on me. I'm sending my parents money too. Yeah, but you still have a lot left, you know? Okay, and? That's hardly unfair. I worked hard to get where I'm at right now. I've asked you to do the same thing that I did. You know that it won't be easy for me to do what you did. Plus, it's so time-consuming. Obviously, you don't have to do the same exact things I did, but you've had so much experience at your company that you'll definitely find a better job with better pay. Hell, I'll even help you. That's not what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to ask you if we could split the expenses more fairly. What ratio do you want to split it in? 70-30. That's too much for me and barely anything for you. I'll go till 60-40. All right, I can work with that. I was really upset with the way Sam was seeing things. I mean, I know we worked in different fields, but his field worked similarly to mine. I hated how Sam didn't want to make an effort. But I let it go because I didn't think it was a hill worth dying on. Our relationship didn't have many issues after that. We worked with our new arrangement, and I did notice that Sam seemed a lot less stressed and a lot more happier. Even though I wasn't initially happy with the arrangement, seeing Sam look happier made me feel better. If there was one thing that I did a lot back then, it was bending over backward to make the people I loved happy, which, to be fair, bit me back in the worst way possible. About 2.5 years into dating, Sam proposed to me. I was overjoyed and excitedly said yes. Our wedding was a small and private event. Only our immediate family and our closest friends were present. It was the first time I met Sam's family. They lived in the state over. I never really got to meet them because I was too busy working and I never really had any real time off. My only time off was weekends. Holidays were the best time to make the most amount of money I could. Even after graduating, the new jobs kept me really busy. Sam would make frequent trips to visit home, and whenever they would ask for me, he would tell them I was busy. So the wedding was a great bonding moment for us. Since we cut down big time on the wedding costs, Sam decided that we should move into a different flat. I was skeptical about it. Sure, we had more than enough saved to make a down payment for a bigger and better place, but most of that saved money was mine. I told him so. Baby, I don't think splurging on an expensive apartment is a smart decision. But we have more than enough money for a down payment. Yes, but most of it's mine. Baby, we're getting married. There'll be no such thing as mine or yours. Oh, there definitely will be. We're signing a prenup, but that's only for people who are going to get a divorce. Do you think we won't last? No, it's nothing like that. It's just a smart and safe thing to do. So is not buying a huge apartment right now. Fine, I'll agree to the prenup, but I won't agree with not buying a new place. I mean, look at our place. It's tiny. What's the issue with that? Babe, sometimes my family would want to come over and spend time with us. I don't want them to spend time at a hotel. I still don't think that's a smart decision. You never listen to me. All you want is your way. Why are you even marrying me at this point? There's no need to get rude. I'm marrying you because I love you. Just because I don't agree with everything you say doesn't mean I love you less. Please, you'll appreciate it a lot in the future. Let's just get a new place. Fine, but the apartment will be in my name. I will not debate that. Fine. Our new place was a penthouse. It had 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and 1 office. Thankfully, it was not in a very happening area, so it was very affordable. I had also gotten a huge promotion at work that month. I was promoted to head of my division. Sam and I celebrated big the night after I learned of my promotion, and it was the best night of my life. But then tragedy struck. First, Sam lost his job because he wasn't doing his job properly. I was upset, but I couldn't show it because I had to be supportive of Sam. He wallowed in his depression for a while. I mean, there was no need for him to work because I made more than enough for both of us, but still, I wanted Sam to contribute in some way, especially because we were planning on starting a family. If we were going to have kids, we were going to need a lot of money, but Sam never seemed to listen. I decided to just let him be for a while and try and push him to work in a couple of months. Then tragedy struck again. Sam's family, about 2 months after Sam lost his job, due to some faulty wiring, there was a fire at Sam's home. Thankfully, aside from some very small injuries, everyone was safe and fine. The house wasn't completely burnt down, but it would take another 8 to 9 months to get repaired fully. The news of the fire distressed Sam a lot. He didn't sleep the entire night and kept checking up with his parents and his younger siblings. They were staying in a motel for some time, but they obviously couldn't stay there until their house got renovated. So Sam approached me the next day. Babe, I have something kind of big to ask of you. Yes? I was wondering, do you think we could invite my parents to stay here with us until their house is renovated? They have no other place to go to, and they can't keep living in a motel. It's expensive and impractical, you know. Oh, of course. They're my family, too. There's more than enough space here for them. Are you sure? Yeah. I could convert my office to a bedroom for your siblings, and your parents could take the guest bedroom. No, darling. I meant, are you sure you're okay with my parents staying here? Why would I not be okay with it? Because you know that they'll be staying here for the rest of the year, right? Yeah, and there's no problem with that. Thank you so much, darling. Shh, there's no need to thank me. A couple of days later, Sam's family moved in with us. I would love to say that it was easy living with them, but it wasn't. The first night they moved in, we had dinner together. After dinner, we sat together, drank a little wine, talked about ourselves for a while. I learned a lot more about Sam and his childhood at that point. Sam's mother, Sally, had managed to save some of her childhood albums of Sam's, and she showed them to me. We gushed over how cute Sam looked as a child. I got to learn about Sam's siblings a lot more too. His youngest brother was currently in his sophomore year of high school, while his younger sister was a senior in high school. Sally told me that they had Sam when they were really young. After a while of talking about themselves, the topic shifted to me. So, Macy, tell us more about yourself. I don't know what to say. Tell us about your childhood. Oh, there's not much to say. I didn't grow up with a lot of disposable income. I struggled really hard, but it was worth it because I'm living pretty comfortable today. Oh, is that why you're always working? Yeah. I'm glad you married our son then. I'm sure he'll provide everything you need. Oh, but I'm the one. Mom, did you show her that picture of me sitting in the driver's seat in Dad's old car? Oh, yeah. Look at how silly he looks here. I looked back at Sally and her album, but the back of my mind was reeling with confusion. What did she mean by Sam providing for me? Did she not know that I'm the one providing for both of us? Why had Sam just interrupted me when I was trying to tell Sally just that? I knew that I had to talk to him. I waited patiently until Sam's parents decided that it was time to head to bed. When we finally parted ways to go to our respective rooms, I kept trying to get Sam's attention so I could ask him about what had happened earlier. But he kept making excuses and avoiding me. Finally, when we settled into bed to fall asleep, I asked him about it. What was that about earlier? What do you mean? Babe, don't play dumb. Your mom said that you were the one providing for me. What was that all about? About that, I kind of didn't tell my parents I lost my job. Why? It's embarrassing. I didn't want them to know that their child was unemployed. Okay, but why do they think that you're the one providing for me? Why, is that a bad thing? No, I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's just that you've already lied about something, and I just want to know what else you've lied about so we can keep up with it. Oh, sorry. Well, I also told them that I'm working from home and that I'm the one earning more. Let me guess. Because it would be embarrassing if I made more than you. Yeah, I don't like this. But I love you, so I'll let it go. Thanks, babe. You're the best. If I'm being completely honest, I hated what Sam had done. I worked hard to get to where I was. He knew that. In fact, he was there for a good portion of it, and still he took it all away. But at the same time, I understood the importance of wanting your parents to think that you're doing well. Basically, I hated it, but I understood it. The first week his family stayed with us, everything was pretty good. But then their true colors came out. They left messes everywhere, and neither of them ever volunteered to clean up, even after I had expressed how I wanted them to clean up after themselves. After a while of this, I gave up on asking them. I either took care of the messes myself, or I just let it be. Then it got worse. In the first month they were there, Sam's parents contributed to the utilities. The second month they stopped. Honestly, I was fine with it, even though I was a little upset. What I was not okay with was Sally accompanying me or Sam on our grocery trips and picking out the most expensive things and expecting us to buy them. On top of all that, they ran up our electricity and water bills like crazy. I sat down one night and just reviewed how much we had spent that month, and to my horror, I realized we had spent 5 times what we usually spend. So the next day, while we were all eating lunch together, I brought it up with Sam's parents. I don't know how to bring this up without making things awkward, but respectfully, in the nicest way possible, I need to ask you guys to cut down on the spending. What do you mean? I mean, you guys buy a lot of expensive stuff at our expense, and you guys have run up our water and electricity bills by a lot too. You don't get to tell us what to do. Oh, no? I don't mean it in any rude way. It's just our expenses this month have been 5 times what we usually spend. If you could contribute a little, I wouldn't mind continuing to live this way. Contribute? This is my son's money we're spending. If he doesn't have an issue with it, you have nothing to say. Babe, that's enough. I was furious. I knew she was my mother-in-law, but she was staying in my house. She did not get to speak to me that way. I politely asked her to curb her spending, and she was so rude. And to make matters worse, Sam hadn't even backed me up. Hell, I wouldn't have minded if he kept his mouth shut. But he took his mother's side, and I did not like that one bit. I went to bed furious. I didn't speak to Sam or his family. The next morning, I got up and went to work. I came back, and Sam was waiting for me in the room. He began yelling at me for confronting his parents like that. I told him to keep his mouth shut because he was the worst of them all. He had no say in anything, and I was going to make sure it stayed that way. Sam tried to tell me that his parents had gone through so much and asked me to just humor them for a little while, and I told him that if he wanted to humor them, he could do it at his own expense. I reminded him whose house they were living in. I told him that if they kept this behavior up, I would throw all of them out, including him, without an ounce of remorse. Sam didn't talk much to me after that for a week. Sam's family's behavior only got worse. They got increasingly invasive. They rarely allowed my privacy. If I was reading a book in my room, one of Sam's siblings would come in and sit next to me. If I was cooking food, Sally would walk in and tamper with my food so it would fit the family's tastes. If I was working out at the complex's gym, Sam's father would be there. I had no space for myself. Initially, all of this was okay, but when you start to feel like your space is no longer yours, it's painful. I found myself spiraling into depression, and Sam just never seemed to care. He was just happy to keep the pretense going at my expense. Literally. The final nail in the coffin was when I returned home from work really late. I was exhausted, and all I wanted to do was take a long, warm bath, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I didn't want to talk to or interact with anyone, so imagine my irritation when I walked into my house and heard loud laughs from a lot of women coming from my dining room. I walked over to the dining room to see what was going on and saw Sally surrounded by a bunch of women. I coughed to draw attention to me and politely asked Sally what this was all about. Sally perked up when she saw me and walked around the table to stand next to me. She then introduced me to her friends. Everyone, this is my lovely daughter-in-law. Hi, everyone. Oh, wow, she's really pretty. Yeah, thank God she has her looks. My son did her a favor by marrying her. Excuse me? She used to be so poor. If it wasn't for my amazing son, she'd probably be on the streets. No, I wouldn't. You know what? I'm sick and tired of all of you. Macy, calm down. What are you talking about? I'm not the poor one. Your stupid son is. I'm the breadwinner of this family, and every single one of you are a bunch of freeloaders. Macy! I've had enough of your family's rude and disrespectful behavior. Not once have you expressed any gratitude that I've shown. Not once have you lent me a helping hand around the house. Not once have you paid for anything. All you did was spend a fortune that was mine. Oh, please, even if you are the breadwinner right now, this house is in my son's name. So how we live here isn't a problem. We'll stop the overspending, but we'll live here on our own terms. My God, what has your son not lied to you about? This house is in my name. I'm the one that paid the most of it. I'm the one still paying it off because your no-good son is unemployed. Oh my God. You know what? I'm done. I want you guys out, and I mean all of you, including Sam, by the end of this month. I'll send you an official notice by the day after. I don't care if you guys are left on the streets, but I deserve better than this. I left my place and went to stay with one of my friends. I was so drained from my emotional outburst, I didn't realize how much anger I had in me until that moment. It felt good to get it all out. An hour later, my phone was blowing up with calls and messages from Sam and his parents. Sam was angry with me for revealing everything to his parents, while Sally was mad at me for humiliating her in front of her friends. Sam's dad was the only one actually begging me to let them stay there. I felt so many emotions that I decided to just not dwell on them. There was only one thing I wanted, and that was freedom. Freedom from my in-laws and my lying husband. I had the notice written up the next day. I had also filed for divorce and got the papers ready. The day after that, I went over to deliver the papers to Sam's family. Initially, Sally and Sam started yelling at me. Sam then changed his tune and asked me not to leave him, but I was so numb from the past few months of torture, disrespect, and lies that I didn't bat an eye at his tears. I felt a little bad when Sam's dad and siblings asked me to let them stay, so I told them they either had to pay rent at the market price or get out. The rent for such a large apartment was obviously a lot and out of their budget. They ended up moving out. Sam knew better than to contest the divorce, because if he did, I would have found a way for him to pay me back everything he owed me. I was sad that my wonderful relationship had come to this, but at the same time, I'm finally independent and able to take pride in my accomplishments. I realized that I'm never going to bend over backwards for anyone, no matter how much I love them. I'm never going to let anyone use me ever again, and I think that's something everyone can take away from this. Remember to always live your best life and always be true to yourself. That's the one thing that makes life worth living. Thank you for listening. Hello, my name's Serena and I'm 30 years old. I made the mistake of marrying a man with more issues than you could ever imagine. You see, I had this notion that love could conquer all, that I could fix him and make him see his worth. Oh, how wrong I was. Love may be powerful, but it can't teach someone how to love themselves. My ex, let's call him Rob, had an unhealthy obsession with pleasing his parents. And I'm not talking about your typical desire for parental approval. No, it was an all-consuming obsession that dictated his every move. It was as if he believed that his worth as a person was entirely dependent on his parents' validation. Now, let's talk about his lovely parents, shall we? We'll call them Mr. and Mrs. Smith for the sake of anonymity. They were the epitome of neglectful parenting. They rarely showed any genuine interest in their son's well-being, leaving him constantly starved for their attention and approval. It was a heartbreaking sight to witness, but I soon realized that I couldn't fill the void that his parents had left behind. To make matters worse, Rob had a nasty habit of squandering our hard-earned savings at his parents' whims. Can you believe it? I'm talking about extravagant gifts, lavish vacations, and all sorts of unnecessary expenses. It was like money was pouring through our fingers straight into the pockets of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Naturally, this financial irresponsibility became a major point of contention between us. We would argue endlessly about his reckless spending and his inability to prioritize our future. It felt as though I was constantly battling against his parents' influence, and it took a toll on our marriage. But here's the thing, despite the chaos and the endless arguments, I never stopped caring for Rob. I wanted him to break free from the shackles of his parents' expectations and find happiness within himself. However, it became clear that my love alone couldn't save him from the clutches of their toxic influence. Oh, hold tight, folks, because things are about to get even more intense in this roller coaster of a tale. So, one day, Rob approaches me with an air of seriousness, claiming that he has something important to tell me. Now, I'm no stranger to his antics, but little did I know that this conversation would lead to our worst fight yet. Serena, I need to talk to you about something important. All right, what is it? You know my parents are retiring, right? Well, I want to surprise them with a luxury trip. It's going to be quite expensive. That's fine as long as you're using your own money. I can't bear another argument about our savings. I can't afford it on my own. I need to use our savings for this trip. Rob, if you can't afford it, then maybe it's not a good idea to spend so much. Then he snapped at me. You don't understand, Serena. I love my parents and I do anything for them, even go above and beyond. Love shouldn't be measured by lavish expenditures. It's about being there for each other, supporting one another. But this trip is important to them. I want to make them happy. And I want us to be financially stable. Using all our savings for a trip is not responsible. You don't get it. This is something I feel compelled to do. I want to give my parents the world. Rob, we can show love and support without sacrificing our financial security. We need to find a reasonable solution. But I thought you'd understand. They mean the world to me. And you mean the world to me too, but we can't ignore practicality. We need to find a balance. You're just being selfish. I can't believe you won't support me in this. It's not about being selfish, Rob. It's about being responsible and planning for our future. How much will this cost anyways? I need all of it. My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This man had the audacity to ask me if I was willing to use all of our savings? He must have lost it. All of our life savings, Rob? Are you sick? Wow, Serena, I didn't think you'd be this heartless. You think money grows on trees? What makes you think that you can say crap like that and be so nonchalant about it? Well, I was planning on getting the money back. Oh, you were going to get $70,000 back. Okay, then that works then, no problem. Really? No, Rob, not really. I was being sarcastic. It's too much, and I won't allow it. Stop treating me like I'm a child. Then stop acting like one. I thought you were the person who would understand and stand by me. I do stand by you, but not at the expense of our financial stability. We need to think this through. The argument had escalated to a point where not only our voices were raised, but also a few things decided to go airborne and smash into a million pieces. Good times, right? And then, out of the blue, Rob drops the bomb. If you can't support me on this, then I want a divorce. Oh boy, he thought I'd start begging him to stay, fighting tooth and nail for our crumbling marriage. But guess what? I didn't take the bait. Nope, not this time. Instead, I summoned all the calm and poise I could muster and shot back. Okay, Rob, if that's what you really want. The shock on his face was priceless. He expected tears and desperate pleas, but instead, he got me standing my ground. I was done coddling and enabling this man. If he wanted to squander his resources, then he was more than welcome to. I didn't hold back. Oh no. I laid it all out on the table. I told him it was time for him to realize that his attempts to win his parents' approval were about as effective as using an umbrella in a hurricane. Pointless, my friend. He tried to argue, but I shut him down with a simple gesture, raising my hand as if to say, "Hold up, buddy." I told him I was tired. Tired of fighting for a love that was based on unrealistic expectations and the constant need for validation. It was time for me to take a stand. You want to spend your money impressing people who couldn't care less. Knock yourself out, buddy. But as for me, I'm done living in this cycle of disappointment and broken promises. Boom. The truth hit him like a ton of bricks. The reality of our situation sunk in, and it wasn't pretty. Our marriage had become a battleground, and it was time to wave the white flag and find our own separate paths. It had been a month since the papers were signed, sealed, and delivered, marking the official end of my turbulent marriage to Rob. And let me tell you, the sense of freedom and relief is absolutely intoxicating. No more sniveling, no more constant battles over money and his parents' approval. I can finally breathe without the weight of his insecurities dragging me down. Life was looking brighter by the day, my friends. Now, I won't lie, Rob did try to worm his way back into my life. He reached out, acting all concerned, asking how I was doing. But I saw right through his little charade. I wasn't about to fall for his tricks again. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, you know how the saying goes. I ignored his attempts at rekindling any kind of connection. I had learned my lesson. I had spent far too long trying to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed. It was time to focus on myself, my growth, and my happiness. Getting back on my feet wasn't easy. I won't sugarcoat it. Dividing our assets and adjusting to a new financial situation took some time and effort. I had grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle, but hey, I'm no stranger to hard work. I rolled up my sleeves and embraced the challenge of rebuilding my life as a single woman. I discovered newfound strength and independence within myself. I started reconnecting with old friends, pursuing hobbies that had long been neglected, and exploring new passions. The world was my oyster, and I was determined to savor every moment of this newfound freedom. Sure, there were moments of doubt and loneliness, and still adjusting to this new financial situation was certainly challenging. The scars of a failed marriage don't vanish overnight. But with each passing day, I found solace in knowing that I was no longer compromising my own happiness for the sake of someone else's insecurities. My ability to move on so quickly was probably an indication that I'd been beating a dead horse for a while now. I was so surprised at how much I could accomplish without that dead weight on my shoulders. So there I was, another month later, still adjusting but thriving nonetheless. And Rob was still bombarding me with messages. Except this time it was a bit different. He'd gone the full-blown cry me a river route, claiming he was in danger and desperately needed to meet with me. I was getting tired of him contacting me, and I wanted to put this issue to rest once and for all. So I called in the middle of one of his text rants and said, "Rob, I told you, I don't want to hear it. We're divorced, remember? It's time for us, you, to move on." "Serena, please, just give me a chance to explain. I'm in serious trouble and I didn't know who else to call. I need your help." Maybe it was the fact that I hadn't heard his voice in so long, or perhaps he genuinely sounded terrified, but I relented. "Fine, but I'm not inviting you into my home. Let's meet at the cafe we used to go to. I don't want any funny business." "Thank you, Serena. I promise. I just need a listening ear. I'm desperate, and you're the only one who truly knows me." I know, my friends. You're probably thinking, "Serena, what on earth possessed you to meet up with Rob after all you've been through?" Believe me, I ask myself the same question, but sometimes even the strongest of us have moments of weakness, and I let curiosity and the lingering flicker of care get the best of me. Who was I kidding? I couldn't resist his desperate plea for help. Just because we were divorced didn't mean that I didn't care about him. So there we were, sitting across from each other in that cozy little cafe. The air was filled with intoxicating scent of freshly brewed coffee, but even that couldn't mask the palpable tension in the room. It was like stepping into a war zone of emotions. I couldn't help but observe Rob's face as he sat there, anxiety riddling with his features. It was almost comical how he tried to convey his distress through those puppy dog eyes, but I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I leaned back in my chair, trying to exude a sense of control. I was determined to keep this conversation on my terms. "All right, Rob, you've got my attention. What's this danger you've managed to stumble into? And let me be clear, I'm not interested in being your savior anymore. I've had my fair share of cleaning up your messes." Rob let out a heavy sigh, his face a blend of regret and desperation. It was almost pitiful to witness, but I reminded myself not to be swayed by his theatrics. "I know I've messed up in the past, Serena, but this time it's different. I've gotten myself tangled up with some really dangerous people. I owe them a substantial amount of money, and they're not exactly the forgiving type." I raised an eyebrow, not fully buying into his tale of woe. "Dangerous people? Really, Rob? Are we talking about those imaginary friends of yours again? You always had a knack for attracting trouble, didn't you?" Rob's eyes widened. A mixture of hurt and frustration flashed across his face. It was clear that he expected a different response from me, but after everything we had been through, I had grown tired of being the one who constantly tried to fix him. "No, Serena, I'm not making this up. You think I wanted this? Me coming to you with my tail between my legs asking for help? Okay, let me guess. You took the divorce hard and you needed money." "Not necessarily. Remember the trip I told you about?" "Oh God, don't tell me you borrowed money to fund a trip." People around the cafe looked at me as I raised my voice. I sent over an apologetic stare, trying to compose myself. "Look, Serena, I got involved in something I shouldn't have. I know that now, and now I'm paying the price. I need your help to figure a way out of this mess." My frustration started to bubble up, ready to boil over. How could he come back into my life with yet another disaster of his own making? But beneath my anger, a sliver of compassion lingered, reminding me that he was still human, even if he was deeply flawed. How much do you owe? $50,000. $50,000? Rob, are you crazy? The cafe threw daggers at me, but this time I didn't bother apologizing. If they heard what I was hearing, they'd shout too. Serena, please, I'm desperate and I've nowhere else to turn. I know I messed up, but I still care about you. You were the one who truly believed in me. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, a glimmer of the man I once fell in love with, but it was too little, too late. I had to protect myself, even if it meant turning my back on him. Oh, don't do that, Rob. Don't try and reel me in. It's too late for that now. I thought you were going to say something like $5,000. Hell, I might have even been gracious and allowed $10,000. But 50? $50,000? You must have lost your mind. Rob began to sob, crying loudly and not caring about the other patrons. He was making a fool of himself. Rob, this is not the time or the place. Logistically, what's going to happen if you don't pay them back? They'll break my legs, Serena. Jesus, that sounds serious. This isn't funny, Serena. I'm in serious trouble. I know, Rob, I know. Why don't you explain everything from the beginning this time? Rob poured out his tale of woe, confessing how he had obtained the money to fund his parents' extravagant trip. He explained that a friend had promised to lend him the funds, but that friend had let him down, leaving him trapped in this huge-ass debt. As he revealed the details, a mix of frustration and amusement filled me. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh, recognizing the twisted web Rob had woven for himself. So, let me get this straight. You took money from these dangerous people to please your parents, who haven't even bothered to thank you or show any appreciation for the lavish trip you funded? Is that what you're telling me? Rob's expression grew sullen, tears streaming down his face, the weight of his actions finally sinking in. He shook his head, his voice laden with regret. It's true, Serena. My parents haven't even reached out to me since they embarked on their grand adventure. It's like I'm invisible to them. I couldn't help but feel bad for the guy. What a predicament, am I right? It was almost poetic justice witnessing Rob come face to face with the reality of his choices. But I couldn't gloat, not with this man silently sobbing in front of me. I know you don't want to hear this right now, but you did this to yourself, Rob. I told you that it wasn't wise. And what's worse, you divorced me over it. And now here you are, not knowing what to do. You chased their approval, poured your life savings into fulfilling their desires, and they hadn't even bothered to acknowledge your sacrifice. As much as it hurts, this is a hard lesson you needed to learn. It was a bitter pill for both of us to swallow. Rob had placed his self-worth in the hands of those who were incapable of appreciating his efforts. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I couldn't save him from his missteps any longer. I was hoping that now, with his legs in danger, he would understand that I was always on his side, and that his reducing himself to just a puppet that pleased his parents led to his downfall in the end. As the reality of the situation settled upon us, silence enveloped the cafe. The weight of our shared history, of all the broken promises and shattered dreams, hung heavy in the air. At that moment, I knew it was time to walk away for good. No more second chances, no more futile attempts to mend what was irreparably broken. Rob had to face the consequences of his actions, and I had to find my own path towards happiness. I hope you find a way out of this mess, Rob. What? You're not going to help me? What the heck? No, Rob, I'm not going to help you. Why not? I don't have the funds for it. Can't you get a loan? A loan that I'd have to spend the rest of my life paying back? No, thanks. I'm not as reckless as you are. Come on, Serena, please, I'm begging you. Huh? With the way that you're acting, it's almost as if you expected me to help you. Yeah, I did. You're my ex-wife, not my mortal enemy. And you see, that's the problem right there. You think that I'm always going to be here. And that's because I always was. I was your wife. Rob, of course I was going to dig you out of your messes, but I can't keep doing that. It's not my job or responsibility. I don't owe you anything. And honestly, after all the crap you put me through, squandering our expenses for your ungrateful and toxic parents, it's because I love them, Serena, you know that. And I love myself. And so I have to do what's best for myself. And that includes protecting myself, Rob. He hung his head, finally admitting defeat and realizing that if he was going to get help, it wasn't going to come from me. Because it's free, I'm going to give you some advice. Leave the country. Pack up your life and move somewhere where they can't find you. And if you can't do that, then I don't know how else to help you. Rob just sat in silence, almost pouting like he was irritated at my refusal to help him. It's time for us to part ways. I can't keep getting caught in the storm of your life. We both deserve a chance at finding our peace. I wish you well, Rob. I mean it. If you wished me well, you'd help me out. Goodbye, Rob. I'm getting a new number. With those words, I rose from my seat, leaving Rob sitting there, his face a mosaic of emotions. It was a painful yet necessary step towards reclaiming my happiness, my sense of self.